Stories Between Us anthology, where Black queer men's lives, love, and tension take center stage. Kameron took the assistant job to survive, not to be seen. But his powerful new boss was watching him from the start. One night, a favor turned into a kiss, and nothing was the same after. Kameron showed up 15 minutes early, shoes too tight, nerves stretched thinner than the dress shirt he borrowed. The campaign office towered over Wilshire like it knew what it was doing. He didn't. Not really. Just a 25-year-old poli-sci dropout with a resume full of gaps and a couch on the west side that wasn't his. The front desk guard didn't look up when he gave his name. The elevator was fast, but not fast enough to stop the self-doubt from rising with him. The floor chimed. Kameron stepped out, straightened his spine, and tried to look like someone worth hiring. Andre had been watching him through the glass since he stepped off the elevator. Another underqualified applicant in overqualified clothes, he assumed. But something in the way this one stood, still alert, like he was bracing for a fight or a miracle, stopped Andre mid-scroll. He didn't bother sending his assistant to fetch him. He opened the door himself. Kameron followed him into an office that felt more like a bunker. No windows, one framed protest photo, a faint smell of cedar and something richer. Andre moved behind the desk without a word. He scanned the resume. Kameron watched him the whole time, unsure if he was supposed to sit, speak, or vanish. Andre finally leaned back, hands folded. Kameron watching. They both knew this wasn't really about the job. The campaign didn't need a temp assistant. It needed loyalty, silence, hands that moved when told, and eyes that didn't look too long. But Kameron did looked right at the man who could either save him or ignore him. Andre looked back. The silence between them didn't break. It deepened, turned into something shaped like interest, or danger, or both. Andre reached for a folder. It was a quick background check run by someone in the IT department who owed him favors. Kameron had a record. It was minor. From 2 years ago. A protest that got too loud. A cop that got too rough. Andre read the report again, even though he'd memorized it. Kameron didn't flinch. Andre closed the folder. Even though Kameron didn't have a clean record, he was careful. Pride tucked under desperation. Andre liked that. It meant he wouldn't talk. Andre offered the job to Kameron. Kameron took it the way you take medicine you don't want to need. The next 3 weeks moved fast. Days blurred with late-night calls, urgent runs across the city, tension simmering under every thank you and got it. Kameron never touched Andre, never stood too close, never asked why half his tasks involved no one else, and always ended with them behind closed doors. But Andre noticed everything. Noticed when Kameron changed his shirt in the copy room, thinking no one saw. Noticed the way he took notes. Meticulous, almost obsessive. Noticed the silence in the car rides home. Heavy, charged, like a match waiting for friction. Andre gave him too much work. Paid him too much. Never complimented him in front of others, but always made sure he left with car fare, dinner money, or something. Kameron never asked questions. That was part of the deal. Until the night Andre called him into work past midnight. The campaign manager had disappeared. Rumors were starting. Andre said he needed backup. Kameron showed up in sweats and a hat, looking like a problem and a solution. They worked until 3 a.m. in the morning, side by side, backs bent over a table littered with donor files. They both felt the charge when their arms kept touching. Andre poured a single bourbon without asking, and Kameron took it immediately, the acceptance saying more than either of them was ready to admit. By 4 a.m., the files were done. Andre leaned against the desk, arms crossed. Kameron stood across from him, still holding the glass. It was the way their eyes looked at each other that made this dangerous. Andre knew he had crossed this line once before. An old staffer whose silence was paid off. He couldn't afford that again. But Kameron wasn't like the last one. He never lingered, never asked for more. He showed up, did the work, kept his mouth shut, which made Andre want him more. Kameron didn't speak when Andre stepped closer. Didn't move when he reached up and adjusted the collar of his hoodie. The moment hovered. If either of them breathed wrong, it would fall apart. Andre stepped back. "You should go," he said. But it wasn't spoken. It was understood. Kameron didn't argue, just nodded once, slow, collected his things, walked to the door, stopped and turned. Andre looked up. Their eyes locked again. Kameron didn't say thank you. He didn't need to. He just said, "I know what you did. With the rent. With my debt. I didn't ask you to pay that." Andre didn't deny it. Kameron stared a moment longer, like he was seeing him for the first time. Then he left. Andre stood alone in the silence, heart pounding like a threat. He had underestimated this one. Kameron had received the court email by accident, or so he thought. The subject line, "Case update, expungement confirmed," was vague, but the effect was immediate. His heart stalled. There were only two cases it could be. One was a parking ticket. The other was his protest arrest. He read it 3 times. The record was gone. Wiped clean like it never existed. No attorney name. Just a legal entity tied to a political action committee he recognized from one of Andre's walls. He didn't say anything that day. Not to Andre. Not to anyone. He went home and lay on the couch he was still sleeping on, his durag still damp from a fresh wash. His head was spinning. Andre hadn't just given him a job. He had erased something the system swore would follow him forever. Quietly, without asking. Without permission. Andre texted at 10:47 p.m. Said a donor had pulled out. Said Kameron needed to drop an envelope in a random neighborhood. No context. Just the address. He called a rideshare and went without question. The shoes on his feet weren't his. The cologne he wore was a half-empty tester bottle he'd sprayed on a Target sample strip weeks ago and sealed in a Ziploc. He dabbed the strip across his collar before leaving. The man who received the envelope at the drop-off was glassy-eyed and sharp-tongued. Said Andre had a type. Said Kameron should enjoy it while it lasted. Kameron didn't respond. Just took the car Andre sent and rode in silence back across town. When the elevator opened into Andre's penthouse, Kameron felt underdressed. But Andre wasn't in a suit. No tie. Just joggers and a slim tee that clung to his chest like it belonged there. The lights were low. Earth, Wind, and Fire played low from unseen speakers. A song Kameron recognized from childhood cookouts and nothing else. 2 bourbons sat, already poured. Andre leaned against the kitchen island. Kameron stayed near the window, the skyline of the city stretching wide beneath them. The bourbon hit fast, but not hard. He liked that. He liked the warmth of it, the weight of the moment. They didn't speak about the envelope. or the donor, or the court record that no longer existed. Instead, they stood there, two black men wrapped in silence, watching a city that had rarely made room for men like them. Andre stepped closer. Not abruptly, just enough. Kameron didn't step back. He adjusted Cameron's sleeve. Again. Same way he had weeks ago, but this time his hand lingered. The cuff had already been straight. The gesture wasn't about fabric. Kameron looked up, their eyes locked. That pause between breath and reach. He kissed him first. It was slow, measured. Mouths that didn't rush. Lips that learned. It wasn't about sex. Not yet. It was about permission, about the quiet confession two black men almost never get to make without cost. Andre's hand hovered near Cameron's neck, not grabbing, just present. Kameron let it stay there. Their foreheads touched briefly after the kiss broke, like neither wanted to break the gravity just yet. When Kameron finally pulled away, Andre slipped something into his palm. A black key fob. Furnished spot in that neighborhood we talked about. 6 months. No rent. You'll be safer there. Kameron stared at the fob, then at him. Andre didn't elaborate. He just turned away, poured himself another bourbon, and said nothing more. Kameron left without a word. On the sidewalk, the city was cooler than it should have been. His phone buzzed. No number. You're not the only one he's kissed. Be careful. He stared at the screen. The street lights didn't flicker, but something else had just shifted. Something bad. Listening to Stories Between Us Anthology. You can find every episode on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Rate the show and leave a comment. It helps more people find us.